But how's everybody doing today? Welcome to my photography live stream where we talk about photography and catch up with the community, see how everybody's doing. I hope you're all doing well. I'm doing well, thanks. And it's good to see everyone. As always, I like the audience to drive the conversation. I just got back home like about 30 minutes ago from a photo walk this morning with the club. Had a good time. We're trying to capture some geese, or not geese. What are they called? Swans. It's hundreds of them out there, but man, it was just so foggy, and there's so much drama leading up to that. Because I had scheduled the meetup for 6:30 in the morning because sunrise is at whatchamacallit, sunrise is at 6:58, right? And it's about a 20-minute walk to the overlook. And uh, we get there and the gates are locked. And I'm like, seriously, it's outdoors. I think it'll be fine. You really have to lock the parking area because you can get into the park, but then the parking area is locked up. So it's okay. So I told everyone, you guys go ahead and catch the sunrise, and I'll wait till 7 o'clock and park everybody's cars into the parking lot when it opens because we just kind of parked along the side of the road. And you're not allowed to park along the side of the road, even though there's no signs that say no parking. It's just kind of a given. If they lock the parking gate, obviously they don't want you parking anywhere, right? So everybody gave me their keys and they went off. David hung back with me because he's more interested in shooting the swans. He didn't care about the sunrise. But the guy comes over finally about 7:05. He shows up and he opens the gate, and I said, are we allowed to park here along the side of the road? He says, probably not. It's not a good idea. He said, this part of the park is federal land, and then over here is the state park. But, back here is federal. I really, really don't know. I said, okay, no problem. Uh, we'll just come at 7 o'clock and do the sunrise somewhere else. And as I'm parking the cars into the parking lot, another truck pulls up, and this is the federal park ranger. And she went ballistic. She was like, "You guys cannot come here before 7 a.m. when the gates open, before the gates open, and park along the side of the road." I mean, we were there like maybe, you know, well, at that point we were there half an hour, but we were just waiting for the parking lot to open. It's not like we were blocking traffic or anything. We were parked on the side, off the road, onto the leaves, whatever, some leafy area. And she went ballistic. Says, "No, you guys can't just park here and wait for the gates to open." I'm like, "Are you serious?" You know? And just it's so irritating when you know it was just really irritating. And fortunately, I was parking the cars. It was David and one other guy that was dealing with her, you know, and then they were telling me, what a how well, I'll just say it nicely, how strict she was being. But she was being a real bee, if you ask me. So yeah, that was really annoying. I mean, I don't understand. Like if we get there a few minutes early and wait for the gates to open so that we can get in there and park, because it's a small parking lot. I mean, I don't know how busy it was going to be, but it's a small parking lot, so it doesn't hurt to show up a little early. Wow. So it was annoying. Sorry, there's some audio distortion. I think I see. Let me try and fix that real quick. I switched to a new microphone today, but I didn't test it out. All right, so hopefully that fixes the distortion. It might have been clipping a little bit. So let me know how that works out as I was, my voice is up a little louder than it normally is because I am seriously irritated thinking about them giving us a hard time about parking outside the gate until it opened. It's not like we were parking there overnight or anything. So there was that drama. So it just kind of messed up. And then by the time I get out there, the sun had already risen because now it's like 7:30, and uh, there was a really thick fog building. And as soon as the sun came up over, the fog got so dense I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see any of the geese. But luckily for the people that were able to go out earlier, right? And oh my God, they showed me some of the pictures they got, just on the back of the camera. They were amazing. Amazing. They had all these beautiful geese flying into the sun, with the sun looked ginormous because of the fog, but the fog wasn't too thick yet. And you could see all these beautiful like geese flying through over past the sunrise, and it was just an amazing scene. I can't wait I hopefully they post their images soon. I'll show you a couple of mine that I got. I'm just fast, with my photo editing and stuff. Uh, but it was that part was really annoying. Let me see if I can show you. Yeah, so this is after the fog had already come up. I just couldn't see anything, and I actually edit this quite a bit so you could at least see an outline in this case these are Canadian geese or Canada geese. I'm sorry, these are Canada geese, not the actual swans. I did get I got a mallard. This is heavily cropped. This thing was way out there. And then I got this. This is before the fog really started to kick in. This was like the very first shot I got. And then everything after that, the fog started building, as you can see here. And then within 30 minutes, it was total loss of light. So I didn't get an opportunity to really get any decent shots. So I did a couple of uh, yeah, as you can see here, this is the scene. So all the geese were down in this area, and there were a couple over here, but not many. Mostly ducks over here. Most of the geese were right out in this area here, which if the light was good, it would be okay. I could, shoot that and crop in. And earlier on, the geese were really a lot closer up to the deck, so they got some great shots this morning that I didn't get. That's okay. Someone has to take one for the team. So I saw this spider. This I took with the OM3 and 12 to 45 f4 Pro lens. So it has, that lens has really good close-up capability, and the detail is, spot on. And I used a little tiny IT20 flash. Uh, and then Jeff let me borrow his 60 macros. So this is in-camera stacked uh, shot with the OM3 and a 60 millimeter macro. And then there's the gang. We were all out there. Just for reference, just these three people in the middle, they are not Micro Four Thirds shooters. Everybody in the back except that guy, us three, these two, and our Olympus OM system shooters. And this he had his Panasonic G9 Mark II. So all Micro Four Thirds shooters surrounding these three. This is a Canon shooter, and they're a Sony shooter, and I think they're Nikon. I didn't see what he was shooting. Um, so there was that. I'll show you. Oh, and I did some fungus growing. These are really cool. I forget what these are called, but they were really colorful. 12 to 45 f4 Pro with the OM3, and then again 12 to 45 f4 Pro. Uh, some really really interesting fungi. I wish I had more time to spend there. Up here is some events I did, and maybe I'll show those later. But anyhow, so in the end, got a couple of decent shots. Nothing great, you know. But okay. So let me go to the chat section, see what you guys have been up to. That's what I did this morning. I've been doing some other things during the week. I'll talk about those later. And let's see. Henning says, what is, I can't get this. There we go. Hello, Rob Trek, and all you wonderful people around the globe. Glad to be here with you. Yeah, I'm glad you can make it this morning. And Henning asks, by the way, do you prefer keystoning in the field, in camera, or in post? Always in post processing. So when I shoot, I make sure I shoot wide enough to adjust for the keystoning in whatever direction I'm doing. And Anthony is here, says, what do you think of the image quality that I'm getting from the 150 to 600? Sometimes I wish the lens was a constant f5.6 instead of a variable f-stop. Ah, okay. Well, 5 to 6.3 is not, it's not that much. It's like a third of a stop in either direction, right? Uh, so I can't imagine it's causing too many problems with your exposure, having that narrow range of variable. But the few images I've seen, they look awesome. I don't see really any problems. You submitted one to my photo editing stream that I recall. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember editing it and how sharp the images came out after editing in DxO Photo Labs. So, when the lens was on sale for like $2,000, I was seriously tempted by it, but I just decided, my 300 f4 with the 1.4 teleconverter is enough. I really didn't need to go a little bit extra out to 600 and potentially having a 1.4 teleconverter on top of that. I, I decided not to go that route. I think if something is that far away, for me, in the kind of environment that I shoot in, I didn't see really a need to go all the way out to 600. Um, David shot with his 600, 150 to 600 today. So I'll be interested to see the kind of shots he got. But since he hung back with me, with the cars, it could he probably didn't get too many good shots either because the fog had just set in so much at that time, and he wasn't using a teleconverter. Okay, and how come this doesn't? Okay, and you'd like to see a very slightly faster super zoom. Okay, I mean between f5 and f6.3, being an making an f5.6 is not going to make a lot of difference. Uh, Granted, every little bit helps. For me, I always want to see improvements in the optics and focusing speed, right? The focusing motors and the overall optical quality improvements over, say, an f-stop. Uh, if we were talking about a full stop or two stops difference, like a full stop difference would be nice. Like when they came out with the 50 to 200 f2.8, that was optically superior and a full stop faster. So if you're looking for version 2 of that lens to do something like that, we're talking big money, right? Technically, the 150 to 400 is probably you'd probably be back up to a 150 to 400 price range. And since they already have the 150 to 400 with the 1.25x teleconverter, that's really the version 2 of the lens that you have, even though it came out first. And maybe possibly in 2 years' time with new technology, they might be able to make this super zoom slightly lighter and faster without it being a lot more expensive. Only time will tell, yeah. Unfortunately, I don't know of any major lens technology that's just around the corner. We're going to be stuck with what we got. The only thing they can improve at this point is the manufacturing process. The technology in of itself, there's nothing right around the corner. Now, I see a few things on the horizon that are very interesting, uh, but not in a couple years' time. I think we're many years out from these new lenses. Now, but in the manufacturing processing, the polishing of the glass and the uniformity and the tolerances, and all of that, and then the optical design itself, they can definitely make some improvements with the optical quality, particularly in the spherical glass that they use and the impurities that they put into the lens to help control other other aberrations, not necessarily chromatic, but other types of aberrations like onion ringing. uh, that's a thing of polishing. How well did they polish the spherical glass? And making a spherical glass is, a very expensive, difficult process from a manufacturing point of view. I mean, it seems like everybody's putting a spherical glass in their lenses now, but to put a good spherical glass in your lens, that is not cheap. And one of the few manufacturers that does make really excellent lenses with very highly polished glass is like Leica. They really have their process down, and that's why they're partially why their lenses are so expensive. Partially because it's Leica, it's just the name, but uh, the optical quality of a Leica glass is, I think, unparalleled in my opinion. Um, Now, over the horizon, like many, many years out, I do see some glass technology that's very, very interesting that could make the lenses a lot smaller, lighter, faster, sharper. The problem is right now we don't have the manufacturing technology to develop that kind of lens in mass because it requires such a precision in etching the glass, because basically it's a layered glass, not too dissimilar from like a Fresnel lens, but at a much I forget exactly the technology, what it's called, I forget, but but apparently they're going to they do have the technology to make it, but not in a mass production way because it does require extreme precision, in manufacturing to develop glass like that. And to make one now would be, unbelievably expensive. I don't even know of any prototypes out there that anybody could even look at. Um, I saw a YouTube video on it a couple years ago. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, it's not too dissimilar from how Fresnel lens works in focusing the light. Speaking of which, Nikon makes their 300 f4 PF version, which is basically they use Fresnel lens technology to make it smaller and lighter. The side effect being is that the bokeh can be a little busy, if you don't frame your shots correctly. The bokeh can be a little bit weird in Fresnel lenses, but that's how they make their 300 PF f4 smaller and lighter than any other comparable 300 f4. So, just to give you a side by side example, let me Let me put the regular 300 f4 next to their 300 f4 PF. So here's their PF version. And let's see. Oh, I don't see their original 300 f4 listed. Nikon AFS 300 f4 PF. Uh, well, I'll just put it next to, say, the Canon one. If Canon makes a 300 f4, I don't see that either. What the heck? Uh, how about our own system? I don't want to compare a Micro Four Thirds with a full frame because the optics in a full frame are generally a little larger, but I think even if I did, it would still be a smaller, lighter lens. 300 millimeter f4. So there's Nikon, there's Sony. Pentax doesn't count. Wow, I don't get that. How can that not be? Just compare it to the Micro Four Thirds one because I'm not able to pull up. Okay, so here is here's the Nikon 300 f4 PF full frame lens against the Micro Four Thirds 300 f4, and the 16 elements, 10 groups, 17 elements, 10 groups. It's pretty similar there. Both have 77 millimeter front lens rings, which makes sense because it's the same aperture, so you don't really need a much bigger front element just because it's full frame. It would be the same. But look at the weight difference. This is 755 grams versus 1,475 grams. So, even being a full frame lens, this thing is half the weight. And it's a little bit smaller. It's a little shorter and uh, diameter, yeah, it's a little bit smaller all the way around, as you can see from the dimensions here. The front element has to be pretty much the same, though, because of the aperture and the focal length. But the overall dimensions, there's no comparison. And the way they do that is because they're using a Fresnel lens, basically. That's what the PF basically stands for. Well, I don't know if it stands for that exactly, but I know that's the technology they're using. And then if we do, let me see if I can show you an example. So like this is an example of, well, not that one. Like some of the bokeh is fine if you if you frame it, but sometimes you can kind of get weird bokeh. I don't see any good examples of it here. But generally speaking, it's not really an issue, apparently. I mean, I just looked at a dozen images and they all look fine to me. But I have seen examples of where the bokeh is kind of Fresnel-like. You see these rings or weird patterns in the bokeh that, in the blurry areas that are not very pleasing to the eye. But for the most part, it's not an issue. And I don't know why more lens manufacturers don't use this lens technology. As you can see, it's a huge difference between the two lenses in size and weight. Yeah, I don't see. I'm just checking one more time. they do talk about it a little bit over at DP Review, but I don't see any. I don't really see any bad examples of it, but I have in the past. It's just I just can't find it right now. Anyway, uh, Henning says on that end, slightly faster means a lot bigger and heavier, but I get what you mean. A 600 f2. Yeah, that's not going to happen. And good morning, Darko. Good to see you. And if such a lens existed, I think that it would cost at least 1,000 more, and that'd be all right with me. I'm never going to be able to justify paying 10,000. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Uh, if you want a 150 to 600 f4, it's like I said, it would have to be a full stop faster. We're talking massive money. You'd probably be in the 10, $12,000 range easily 10, 12 grand. Because think about a 600 f4 prime, not even a zoom. On a full frame camera, they're like $12,000 lenses, so relatively speaking, a 150 to 400 that OM System has for 7,500, I think it's gone up a little in price recently, but let's say 8,000. That's a relative bargain for what you're getting, in my opinion. So, and the big white in Canada costs 10,000. Yeah. The I think you guys have tariffs and things too, but yeah, it's if you want a 150 to 600 to be even a constant f5.6, that would drive the price way up, I think. It's going to have to be a variable zoom. Otherwise, the optical design will be a lot more complex to make it a constant f5.6, let alone the front aperture, the front element's going to be bigger than it already is, and it's already pretty big. I just don't see it happening. And Darko says, how much does artistic principles once learned play into all photography we do? And with that in mind, how do we implement them before we take the shot? Okay, my approach is a lot more relaxed. Okay, I try not to overthink it. Sometimes I do, but generally speaking, I try not to overthink it. And I think you're overthinking it. My advice to when people ask me, like in your case here, is if you see something you like, take a picture of it and then look at it later and try to figure out what you liked about that picture, right? And then expand on that. There's a lot of basic ideas. The most basic are like the rules of composition, which, I use that term loosely. There's not really any rules in photography, but, rule of thirds, Fibonacci, leading lines, frame within a frame, spirals. I could go on. There's about a dozen different things. Layering. There's a lot of compositional techniques, I'll call them, that are very useful, right, to help you get a more pleasing picture. And these are the kind of things you do when you're starting out. And then as you advance, right, you want to start if you want to get into more of the fine art side of photography and start creating things that are more artistic, right? Uh, you can certainly duplicate the masters of photography out there and learn their techniques, but it's coming up with your own style that I think is important. I mean, there's always some basic things I like to think about when I take a photo, right? I like to think about balance. You know, I don't like the picture to be too heavy on one side or have too much weight on one side is the only way I can explain it. I like it to be balanced. And with balance, a lot of times you'll also achieve some kind of symmetry, right? And I lean into symmetry and balance on my photography. I'm trying to incorporate now things like depth, right? Three-dimensional, because you always hear you're trying to take a two-dimensional image and give it a 3D presence, right? So you have foreground, midground, background. I think that's also an important concept is having, something in the foreground, right? Something in the midground, and then the background. And then one of those three will be your subject, whether it's in the foreground, midground, or background. But you want to have some kind of depth to your image. And then, of course, the lighting, right? You want the lighting to be, you know, one way or the other, hard or soft, or again, balancing the image and then expanding on the dynamic range. Like, uh, if you like very high contrast, punchy images, then you want to have blacks, clip the black, clip the white, have this range. If you like more low contrast type images, then you're going to have mostly midtones, darker midtones to lighter shades of midtones. It's all about your style, and it's all subjective, and there's no right or wrong, obviously. It's all about your own style because you can find great examples of in the masters of photography in every form. And then also it's like what we talk about in our annual streams, which will be coming up January, February. We're going to do our 8th annual Micro Four Thirds stream. Uh, Robin likes to talk about what are you taking a picture of, right? And Peter and Maddie are more like, why are you taking the picture? There's all kinds of approaches and thought processes to the photograph, but uh, you know, I I'm always looking around before I take a picture, right? And I'm looking for something to take a picture of. Usually it's like, what can I get a picture of today that's kind of unique and interesting? Like the fungi that I was taking pictures of today. Um, we don't get those kind of colors and life out of fungi normally because it hasn't been raining much, and it rained like last night and the day before or something. So we got some really nice fungi and some nice mushrooms. Unfortunately, I didn't bring my macro lenses or any lighting of consequence to do macro, but I did run across a few things. So I'm always looking around. I'm looking at lighting. I'm looking at balance. So uh, when I'm taking pictures of things, right? I do them for my own personal just enjoyment and process of doing it. Not the pictures of the fungi were particularly exciting, but I like those pictures because I don't normally see fungi with such color and vibrancy and texture. Normally they're all dried up and dead when I see them, you know. Uh, so I took them for that, and that's for my personal enjoyment. But when I'm trying to be creative, again, I try to look at a scene and see what compositions I can put together. Do I have a leading line? Do I have good lighting and shadows? Do I have long shadows? Are the shadows, you know, uh, deep, or are they kind of soft, depending on if it's a cloudy day or sunny day? And then I think about putting these things together and balancing them. If I have a leading line, what's it leading to? Right? Is it leading to the subject? Is it leading away from the subject? Is it framing the subject? All these things I think about and to try to create a pleasing image that has balance and composition and lighting. Uh, and ultimately, um, the fine art or the creative side is going to come out when I put these things together in a very unique way that is unique to me and my thought process and who I am, right? And I think it was Peter Forsgaard said something like, you got to have your own voice in photography, uh, and that's what's going to separate your photography, your craft from everyone else's photos because it's going to be uniquely yours. Um, I'm not there yet, honestly. If you look at my Flickr page, and nothing special about my photos there. I'm just filling the frame with the subject most of the time. And if I'm doing architecture, I'm just keeping my lines straight. You know what I mean? It is what it is. But when, but as you say, look around at things to take pictures of, what you're taking a picture of, why would you take a picture of? So taking those two concepts, like the fungi, I'm taking a picture of fungi. That's what it is. Why am I taking a picture of it? Because I don't normally see vibrant colors and texture like that in fungi. So that's why I took the picture. And then uh, I'll just bring it up. If we look at the composition here, I tried to balance it. And this, in this sense, I'm balancing it in terms of light, right? So there's just as much brightness going on as there is darkness. So there's a good balance in light. There's also a good balance in terms of weight. Like it doesn't feel too heavy on this side versus this side. So that to me, this is a very well balanced picture of some fungi that's colorful that I don't normally see, and that's why I took this. Uh, there's a thousand better pictures of the same fungi somewhere. You know what I mean? And this is not going to win an award at all. But this is my thought process when I approach an image. Some images are simple, like this flower, focus stacked in camera, filling the frame. The only thing going for it here is symmetry, right? So that the image is balanced from left to right. If you divide this into 4 squares, other than this one thing here, which I didn't see it when I was taking the picture, because these things are so small and my eyes are dying. But you can slice this into 4 places, and it's kind of balanced in all four. Um, Again, nothing special. Now this image here, again, is very well balanced. We have foreground here, and then this very thin layer of fog is sort of the midground, and then we have the sun as the backdrop or the background. The thing that makes this picture a little bit different is I included these branches here on the right side. This adds sort of an accent to the picture. And I can't decide if this is a distracting element or if this is an interesting element. I thought I'd just try it. When I took the picture, it looked kind of interesting in the frame. But the problem with this picture now is I think we do have some good depth, and we have a decent range, not great, but a decent range of light. But it's interesting light nonetheless. Uh, where was I going with this? But ultimately, the picture is not balanced, right, because of the branches here. So would have been better is if there was one long branch coming out and framing the sun or something like that. That would have been a more artistic image. But this was more of an experimental image for me with respect to dealing with the fog and the colors that I could squeeze out of the sun, and and then adding maybe an interesting element to the frame to try to do something different. Because if if those branches weren't in there, uh, let me, oops. I guess you can see this. I don't know how to open that. But if I framed it this way, oh, here it is. If I framed it more like this, now this image is balanced. It has some depth. It's very low contrast. So it doesn't have the dynamic range, and there's no distractions. This is a boring picture, in my opinion. So boring. So that's why I included the branches to try to get a more, try to give some kind of accent to the image. But I don't know if it worked or not. I don't think it worked too well ultimately. But that's I don't know if any of that made any sense, but that's my approach and how I think about photography when I'm trying to be creative and create something more artistic rather than, like, the fungi is not an artistic image, it's just a snapshot. But like that sunrise, I was trying to be a little artistic and trying to be a little creative. I don't know if I succeeded or not. I think it really didn't. come out exactly the way I imagined it. But anyhow, there's that. Uh, the question is because a lot of my images are taken looking for the artistic balance when I shoot either in wildlife or in street. Yeah, yeah, it's tough. Uh, Wildlife, Lee Hoy is really good at capturing really interesting and creative artistic wildlife photography. So I would look at his portfolio and his images on his Instagram and look at the kind of photography he does to get some inspiration. And then for street, I would look at some of the masters of photography. Uh, like Cartier-Bresson is the only one that comes to mind by name. Uh, Another one of my favorites is Sal Leader. These guys did street photography, and they're really, really, really had their images are really powerful. So I would I would kind of go that way, but always think about it in the context of who you are and how you can make that image your own. So when people see your images, they can say, "Oh, this was definitely something taken by Darko," right? Okay, my chat just jumped up again. I lost my place here. And Linda Mark says, I'm almost on time. Hi, everyone. Hi, Linda. And Jeff, good to see you. Thank you for the heads up on the audio. And Greg Vancini, the audio is a bit rough. Yeah, sorry. Hopefully it's better now. And after rough shooting with the Canon M system, I'm likely back to Micro Four Thirds for at least a good while. Yeah. I had a Canon M50 for a while, and I used it a few times. It was okay. Nothing. It didn't excite me. It had a few limitations that Micro Four Thirds doesn't have. Uh, so yeah, that's why I'm all in on Micro Four Thirds. And stream's about to start. So, what improvements you want to see made with the future Mark II versions of lenses that you believe are overdue for an update? Okay, well, honestly, the lenses they have now are so good. Saying that they're overdue for an update is being optimistic, in my opinion. For example, the 25 millimeter f1.8 and the 17 millimeter f1.8, all they did was basically make them weather sealed. Optically, they didn't make any changes. And weather sealing is not a critical, necessity for me because I don't like to go out in the rain. If I get caught in the rain, it sucks, but it's rare. But uh, Mark II versions, I imagine, are all going to be weather sealed if they want to go all in on this wildlife type photography, sports action type stuff. Then they're definitely going to have to weather seal. So honestly, I'm so content with the current lineup. I'm not looking for a Mark II version of anything, to be honest. I just can't imagine how they could possibly improve like a 300 f4, which has been out forever. What would they do with a Mark II other than jack up the price, right? Uh, because the 300 f4 is weather sealed, optically amazing, super fast focusing motors. It's so good. Uh, what else? You know, I guess a lens that there are. I'm thinking of the Sony lens that really stressed me. Um, I put a lens on my Sony camera, and the autofocusing was just. No, I'm sorry, it was the Canon 50 millimeter f1.8. Optically amazing, but the autofocus is really frustrating. But on the Micro Four Thirds side, I can't think of too much. I mean, what I'd really like to see, and Panasonic is doing it. I'd like to see OM Systems do more Panasonic focal ranges. Like I love the 35 to 100 f2.8, and Panasonic has updated that. Uh, Now we're up to a Leica 35 to 100 f2.8. More smaller compact zooms that are fast like that. I would like to see. But as of the currently existing lineup, like the 17 millimeter, they took away the focusing clutch, which I never used, but a lot of people liked, and just added weather sealing. That to me is not really an upgrade because optically there's no difference. Yeah, I'm sorry, I really can't answer that one. Happy as I'm a happy camper with all of the lenses right now. The 45 1.8, a Mark II, all they would do is probably add weather sealing, but optically they can't do much better, you know? I mean, any improvements they make optically in a Mark II version, of course, welcome, but how can they do that and not jack up the price? Because you're talking about all the things we talked about earlier in manufacturing lenses. They'd have to really up their game. The 40 to 150 f2.8 is already optically amazing, super fast. I mean, everything is so good right now. I just can't imagine uh, what I'd want in a Mark II version. I'd like to see some other focal ranges that would be more interesting. Like the 12 to 100 is really amazing lens, right? It's a little bit too big. Uh, why not make like a 12 to 75 and make it smaller? Something like that. That's like an f4 constant. Sure. So I think I'd opt for more variety than I would so much updating existing lenses. I'd rather see some more interesting focal ranges in zooms. That would be more useful. Because if I could take out like a 12 to 75 f2.8 that was smaller than the 35 to 100, I would be so happy because that would cover a lot. That would cover a lot because that's an equivalent, what, 24 to 150. That wouldn't be too dissimilar from the new Tamron that came out. What's that, a 35 to 150 or whatever that was? Uh, that would be the perfect lens for event photography. If they could do a 24 to 75 f2.8, and that would be a perfect walk around lens because it should be smaller than the Panasonic's 35 to 100. And so yeah, I would like to see that. But yeah, as far as Mark II versions, I don't see any room for improvement other than adding weather sealing. If they want to update the lenses, they can do that. But it just jacks up the price. I'd rather just buy the original version. And Mark says, if your tires are outside the wild line, she is wrong. Unless there is outside the white line, she is wrong. Unless there's a sign in the area saying no side parking the road. If you're in care, it is not parking. You can check online. Yeah, we're not really parking. I think there's probably a sign about no parking somewhere. They don't post them up every block like in the city, right? Uh, they might post one at the entrance, no parking on the side of the road. If you miss it, you won't see another parking sign. But it is kind of implied, that you shouldn't park on the side of the road when there's parking available. So I never park on the side of the road unless it's explicitly stated or obvious that you can. In this case, it wasn't that obvious. We were just, but yeah, we're not parked there. We're waiting. We're in care, right? As you say, it's so annoying that this morning. And John, you'd say, good to see you. The audio is actually worse, not any better. Oh, I don't get that. Uh, I'll figure out this audio problem. I don't I don't know if I'll be able to fix it during the stream here. Let me try one more thing. Okay, I'm gonna set it to whatever I just set it to now, and hopefully that helps. Maybe I can click this button, see if that makes any difference. Okay, I'm really sorry about the audio. I'll figure it out before the next stream. I was gonna try and do it today, but I got back home too late. Uh, Seems like on one hand, the overall volume is a bit low, yet it seems to be overamping a bit. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Yeah, the new mic sucks. Well, it's probably my settings suck, not the mic. Because I've used the mic. Actually, I used the mic at an event and it was awesome. And the fungus looks pretty cool. Thanks. Yeah, it was kind of cool. The Harvest Man shot was awesome. Fascinating creatures. What's a Harvest Man? Was that one of the fungi? I'm not familiar with what the Harvest Man is. And Shri, good to see you. Shri was out with me this morning. And might want to check the audio cable connection. Sounds like a bad connection. Low gain, slight fuzz. God, I just don't understand. The only other thing I can do is maybe switch back to the mic I used last week. Is that's the right one. Okay, so this is the mic I normally use. I'll get rid of this one. Uh, okay, because my levels look okay. They do look a little low. Let me try one more thing. All right, that's a, this is the old mic from last week. It should sound the same. I'm not doing anything different. I don't know why every week I have some problem streaming. It's probably why nobody watches really. Okay, I'm showing what 33 people here now, which is awesome. Thank you for sticking it out with me. But it's not like I have hundreds or thousands of people coming to my streams. Um, which you would think out of 50,000 subscribers, you would think at least 100 would show up for a live stream. But not really. It's like a fraction of that, right? Maybe possibly in 2 years' time, a new. Oh, okay. Sorry, we did that one. And Photomaker says, my OM lenses are very good, especially the pro ones. Yeah, I'm really happy. And Andrew's here. Good to see you, Andy. And the Gray Vanzini says, I point the camera, I push the button, paraphrased from Fred Eisenstadt. Yep, about sums it up, right? And Wayne is here. Good morning. Good to see you. And looks like butterfly wings. Oh yeah, I must be talking about the fungi pictures. And Anthony says, are you going to join up on your channel with other Michael Four Third users early in the new year like other years? It'd be interesting to see Chris and Jordan from Petapixel. Yeah, they don't have time for me. There's no way. No way those guys would come on my channel. And the audio is better now. Okay, good. So the old mic was fine because I was getting complaints about this old mic. So I said, well, let me try a new mic. Ah, distortion is gone, but overall level is low. Okay. I will get this figured out. Hello, John. Good to see you. All right. Adam says, I know there was a discussion somewhere about either shooting at native ISO or next step being a minimum. I'm not familiar with that discussion. Uh, but I guess the idea is always shoot at native ISO and then adjust in post. That doesn't make any sense to me. Because if you shoot a native ISO, there's no way I'd be able to uh, shoot like this morning. Like I was like at ISO 10,000 sometimes, you know? Like I don't even know what those shots were, what ISO those shots were in. Let me just take a quick look. Okay, that was base ISO. That was base. These were all base. Oh no, this was ISO 800. This was 160, 800, 640. But I was shooting at relatively low shutter speeds. But like this last week, like this shot here, this is ISO 12,800. How can I possibly shoot that at base ISO then adjust in post? I just don't see. I don't see that logic doesn't make any sense to me. But I'm making some assumptions here about what your statement is. If you want to elaborate on that, I can try and address it better. And the great Vanzini says, come on, clear. Says, can't imagine what they might do to upgrade the 75 to 300 and keep the price low. Add weather sealing. That's all they can do, really, because already for its price point, it's already amazing lens. The images that I get from that lens are just stellar. I can't imagine getting better from a lot of their lenses without really jacking the price up. Minimum of 16 ISO. Not sure the reason or if that was here or elsewhere. It wasn't here. I'm not an ISO snob. Uh, and it continues, then go higher if needed. Also looking to get back into using action figures in my shots again, especially as we get back into the gray season. Yeah, those were cool. Um, I don't know why now my chat windows, something's not right. My little chat box down here is stuck. Oh, Let me try something. My chat window's stuck because I was showing you my screen instead of my live. I've been doing live streaming for so many years now. You think I'd have it down by now. I'm just a train wreck with technology. Okay, let me see. Your audio is not the best. Some through two TVs with good sound bars, and my desktop PC sound is fuzzy. Yeah, I don't know. And this side towards screen, good to see you. And Andy says ISO 200 and ISO 400 offer very similar performance on the Olympus bodies. Perhaps the comment is talking about ISO invariant sensors. Could be, yeah. And we have got your studio screen rather than just, yeah, I just realized that. My bad. Oh, got myself a Christmas present. Pen up in excellent condition. Original box was nice. Congratulations. That's such a great little camera. Uh, I would, I should take it out again, but I'm so happy with my OM3. I just love my OM3 so much. I just don't have any urge to take out the Pen Ep anymore because OM3 is so good. And I'm back in the room. Okay, good. I don't know why I was showing my studio screen all this time. I'm getting a cramp in my leg. Too much walking. And Harvest Man is the arachnid you photographed in the macro. Oh, okay. The spider. I guess it's not a spider technically. It's what someone said. Jeff was saying. Damn it, getting old sucks. I used to never get freaking cramps like this after going for a walk. It's unbelievable. And Andy, or it's Andrew, I know. It's been a while since I've had you on the channel. You've been doing such terrific, terrific work on your channel with your live streams. You're so rational when you talk about photography. If you guys have not been to Andrew Banner's YouTube channel, you should definitely check it out. Uh, he's doing a lot of in the field photography, and he talks about specific subjects. I haven't watched you recently, but a couple of months ago when I was watching, uh, how I can't even, my memory, see, getting old, I can't even remember now. There was a lot of things. Every video you produced, is, I think, spot on with the topic you're talking about. I've never watched a video of yours and ever disagreed with you. Not even a little bit. Sometimes I have a slightly different slant on the same thing, but ultimately, we agree, right? With whatever topic. I think one of the topics, one was you were talking about tripods. Another one you were showcasing, not showcasing, but you were talking about a backpack. And another one you were uh, talking about, I think it was your channel. You're talking about, can you trust reviews on YouTube, right? Things like that. But yeah, everything is pretty much spot on. Andrew's one of the few, uh, YouTubers, content creators is really a better word, that I think, is really speaking from his experience and knowledge and not from a business perspective of trying to drive views and, um, you know, get subscribers and all of that, like treating YouTube as a business. He's treating YouTube as an outlet for his creative and for his creativity and his experience primarily, and his point of view, and not for uh, gaining views and likes and subscribes. He's not, you don't get that. I don't get that impression at all from his channel. And as always, like I said, his content has been spot on. Okay. And Moxie, oh, Moxie's here. If such a lens exists, I think it would cost at least 1,000 more. That'd be all right with me. I'm never going to be able to justify paying 10,000. Yeah. Oh, I'm reading the wrong. Too many freaking windows here. So many pros are all about the OM3. I just don't get it when they have the OM1 Mark II. Okay, so you are absolutely correct. No disagreement here. The OM1 Mark II, and I have the OM1 Mark I. The OM1 Mark I, even, I would say, is a better camera than the OM3, on almost any level. Uh, I mean, there's a couple of things newer in the OM3 that are more firmware sort of ish. Like, I'm not sure why they can't put them in the OM1, but uh, the OM3 is all about the aesthetics, right? It's got nothing to do with functionality or this is definitely a form over function camera, right? There's a lot of compromises here in terms of function that the OM1 Mark II and the OM1 Mark I solve. Like the most basic thing is like having a joystick on the back. I used to not like get into that, but when I started using it for a while, I actually really like the joystick now. But this doesn't have that. There's room for one here. They should have put it, but they wanted to keep the interface or the fit back face as plain as possible. So they minimized the buttons down to only really what you need, maybe, a little more. If you look at the front, there's no front button at all here on the front, even though there's room for one. This creative dial, I don't know why they couldn't have put the creative modes up here, right? Instead of putting it here. This makes no sense to me. They could have put all of these functions up here, no problem. But now you have a dial up here that only does two things, or one thing really. It switches from movie mode to photo mode, but it's a whole dial. You can spin this 360 degrees if you design it that way, and you can add a bunch more stuff on here. And instead of putting the creative dial here, put a couple of buttons. But again, it was about form over function. They wanted to make this look similar to the original OM1 film camera. So they put this big dial on the front. And they said, okay, let's make it the creative dial like on the Pen F. On the top here, there's just, anyway, you get the point. My point is, that camera is form over function. The OM1, whereas my OM1 here, this is definitely all about function, right? It has a great shape. It's a good looking camera. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they abandoned form over function or they didn't abandon the form. It's still, I think, a very handsome camera, but it's much more functional. More buttons, a joystick. You know, uh, this is not a dial, but you have two buttons here and two buttons on the front. A substantial grip, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This this is a much more functional camera, and it has. Trying to think, does it have more features than the OM3? Probably not. It does have a better EVF, that's for sure. Uh, yeah, this feels so good in the hand after holding my OM3 all day or all morning. This feels a bit clunky, a bit awkward because it's so boxy. But I like the form. I like the form so much. I like looking at this camera and using this camera and taking pictures with this camera just because of how it looks. It's silly, I know, but uh, so if you're a more pragmatic person, for less money, you can get an OM1 Mark I, and it'll give you all the functionality and more as the OM3. Or for the same money, practically, you can get an OM1 Mark II, which is really a better camera in every way. But this is not my first camera, right? This is like number 20 or 30 or 40, I don't know. So I bought this camera purely for its form, but there's very, very few compromises in terms of capability. it's still a very, very capable camera. You know, bird detect, subject, does everything. Live comp, does everything. They didn't, there are very, very few compromises. The only compromises I can find in this camera is really in the buffer. The buffer in this is very similar to the OM1 Mark One at about, 80 or 90 frames, something like that. Whereas the OM1 Mark II, you got 200 plus frames, so it's virtually unlimited for all intents and purposes. Thanks, Rob. Did a 1,000-mile road trip to North last week with camera. Cool. I'm often not too controversial. It's when I'm that videos blow up. Yeah. Yeah, that's just the way it is on YouTube, right? You have to have like, well, anyway, look at any channel that has a million plus subscribers, They're definitely, like the Fro Knows Photo. I love Fro. I know a lot of people don't, but I love the Fro, and he has a million plus subscribers. Um, definitely, definitely one of my favorites, and you can tell by his personality. He's always has a lot of energy. Tony and Chelsea is a nice team. They work well together, and they do provide a lot of things that people like to hear. You know, and they do have a lot of good content, especially early on in their channel. They produced a lot of tutorials and educational stuff, and they still do to some extent. I haven't watched much of their stuff in the past couple of years. Just one or two videos might come up that I'll watch every few months, but uh, it's because they don't really talk about Micro Four Thirds, so I don't really watch them. And then who else is huge? A person that's probably going to get to a million subscribers is probably Emily at Micro Four Nerds. She's up over 100,000 right now, or something like that. She's gonna be big on YouTube, I think. And Robin's close to 100,000. That's awesome. And Peter and Maddie, I think they're close to 100 also, if not over. And Jimmy, I think, has broken 100. I don't know. I don't look at the subscriber counts specifically. I just, if I notice it and I remember it, then I don't know where they're at. I'm still at like 50,000 because I can't get my audio or video right on my live streams. Um, and I don't make a lot of videos. I make the review video every now and then because they send me stuff. But I haven't made really a real video in a while. But that's how you get subscribers. Because whenever I do a live stream, I'll usually lose a couple subscribers right along the way. Live streams generally don't generate any revenue or uh, certainly not subscribers. And the only subscribers I get now are just people that are watching my old videos. Um, so yeah, my channel, yeah. This year I'm actually making less money than I have in a while. Hardly made any money this year off YouTube. Maybe, oh, it's not much. I mean, it's down. I know it's down percentage wise, it's down about 25% from last year. It's shocking how little I make from YouTube. Um, because I do mostly live streaming. But anyway, uh nobody cares about my my drama at home with YouTube. I wish I had more views. It's disheartening often, like when you were saying about 50,000 subs and less than 50 live streaming viewers. Yeah, but it's always been like that. I, you know, I don't know what people, photography in general is kind of a shrinking, um, yeah, photography in general is a shrinking market. So there's not a lot of people looking for photography channels as often as they used to, but there's channels like Thomas Heaton continues to grow really well, and he does a really good job, but he has a really high production value now. I mean, he doesn't grade his video, but he's really good at storytelling, right? And I think his channel's a great example of a channel that is really, it does well because of the production value, right? And the content in of itself is, I don't know how much you can really learn from watching one of his videos, but the the storytelling, it's always interesting to follow him on his adventures, right? Like he just bought a new van and fixed it up. I mean, how many of us are really doing that in our own lives that we would watch his video, but he's got tens of thousands of views on those videos. And and it's not something I can relate to at all. But I watched it because it was interesting and he makes it fun somehow. So he's a great example uh, of storytelling. And I guess, yeah, I don't know. There's just some channels, they're so good. They're so good at what they do. And I admire that. But all I can do is if someone has a question, I'll do my best to answer it. And I try to give a good answer. And generally I'm usually spot on with the answer, but uh that's not that's not what grows on a YouTube channel, right? On the Pen F, put the front to make it look like the Leica 3C. Yes, I remember. A Leica 3C, they do look pretty familiar. And Marco is here. Hey, happy Sunday, Marco. Good to see you. And on the 3C, it controls the slow shutter speeds. Oh, yeah, right. The old Leica 3C. And Mox's Heather says, I like Lee Hoy. Says it how it is. At least seems so, definitely. Lee Hoy is not one to mince words or hold back. He will tell you exactly what on his mind, without a filter at all, you know. And that's what I love about Lee Hoy. Um, and I think, but the thing is, when somebody is bold as Lee Hoy is, somebody that can talk like that without a filter, the thing is he has the experience and the photography to back it up, right? So, uh, because a lot of people can get out there and just say what's on their mind without a filter, but a lot of times it's just BS coming out of their mouth. But with Lee Hoy, he has the experience and the photography to back that up. So that's what makes Lee Hoy great. I mean, that's what makes him, easily, and he chooses to be an ambassador because he believes in the system so much, for OM Systems. And like I said, he can back up everything he says and does. I have a hard time with some of the recommendations he makes because they're a little bit more advanced in the sense, like for example, like locking, like using ISO and manually controlling ISO, uh, or there was some other things I forget. But there are some techniques that he used that I struggle with. Uh, so I'm not saying he's wrong at all. He's definitely right about what he's saying, and the recommendations he makes will ultimately lead to a better photo or better technique, I should say. Uh, so I would, you know, Li- anyway, Lee Hoy is awesome. I'll have him back on the end of next year for the group stream. And Linda Mark says my ancient LX3 has a joystick, but I think they ditched it on the LX5 and 7. The LX3, wow. Yeah, the joystick is pretty useful. I really like it. And Jimmy hit 100K a month or so ago. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Jimmy makes some great content. Jimmy treats his YouTube a little more business-like though, right? Uh, I mean, his live streams are not. His live streams are definitely like this, where he's just putting himself out there and having a conversation. And he does those occasional videos where he just rants. Rant is a strong word, but he talks about what's on his mind, what he's thinking about, what he's looking forward to, things like that. So he mixes it up quite a bit. But when he does his review videos and things like that, it's all business. You know, he really takes the time to have a certain methodology to testing whatever it is he's testing and be consistent with that and put that out. So his videos are very scripted, and you can always count on a consistent review from him from every product. Unlike me, you know, when I go from one lens to the next or one product to the next, I'm not consistently testing the same things, right? Because the lenses to me are very different. Uh, so, for example, uh, Chris, I forget the guy's name, but there's this one channel that just reviews lenses, and they are exactly the same, every single lens. He has a methodology and a process that he follows to the T for every single lens, with very, very few exceptions. You know, the weirdo lenses, like a fisheye lens or something. But for the most part, if you watch his video, you can compare lens A and compare lens B side by side in the videos. You know, you can watch the two videos side by side and get a feel for which lens is going to perform in the way that you want it to, right? Very consistently. When I do a review on a lens, or like I did the Insta360, it's from my point of view. Like if I'm gonna review a fisheye lens, I'm gonna use the fisheye lens the way I would use it. I'm not gonna sit there and talk about, oh yeah, chromatic aberration in corners, it's soft here, there's not sharp here, shoot it. You know, I'm gonna say, okay, I'm gonna take the fisheye lens out and I'm gonna take a picture of some trees close up. I'm going to get some weird distortion pictures of my dog, and I'm gonna do some sun stars, you know, whatever, you know. Versus when I take out a lens like 75 f2 or an 85 millimeter f1.8 lens, these are portrait lenses. I'm gonna focus on the kind of photography that I do because I'm not really a portrait guy. I'll talk about portraiture a little bit, and I might give a couple examples, but I'm gonna say this I'm gonna use this lens, and yeah, it's sharp corner to corner, or it's not sharp corner to corner. Stop it down to this. I might be a little bit more technical with these lenses because these are staple lenses, right? You know, and you know, the going from 24 to 50, the 35, the 85. I'm talking about full frame equivalents. You know, Micro Four Thirds would be like a 12, 17, 25, and 45, right? Those lenses, I might be slightly more technical, but a lot of times I'm not that technical. I tried to do a couple of technical reviews, and it was just more work than it was worth because ultimately it doesn't matter. You know, the lenses I'm testing are like sub $200. Okay, there's going to be some compromises. Bottom line, they're not going to be perfect lenses. They're going to be very good, or they should. They're surprisingly they've been very good, especially from Viltrox. I wish Viltrox would just make some lens mounts for Micro Four Thirds. Then I would be doing a lot more reviews for their lenses. I turn them down time to time because I'm just not interested in doing another APS-C or full frame lens from Viltrox, even though they make great lenses. If they were making Micro Four Thirds, like I have a lens I'm going to be reviewing. It is a Micro Four Thirds lens. I asked them to send me it in two mounts, one for Fuji and one for Micro Four Thirds. But I'm going to be testing the same lens on two different camera systems, and so that's pretty. It's a pretty cool lens. It's working out pretty well, and I just hit the wrong button. Sorry about that. And Linda says, I think the EM1 Mark One is prettier than the later models. Yeah, it's a little bit smaller, right? A little cuter in a way. It is a good looking camera. By making it smaller, they somehow uh, Yeah, I agree. I think it is definitely a better looking camera than the later models. Um, I think the EM1 Mark III is the most comfortable camera ergonomically that I've ever held. It's the most comfortable. And then the OM1 would be number two in terms of in the OM systems. But number one is like the Canon R8 and the EM1 Mark III. These two cameras are the most comfortable cameras I've ever held in my hand. These two cameras. And Julio says, "Hi Rob, just got the $29 tabletop tripod that you recommended last week, and it's awesome. Even the camera plate is Peak Design compatible. Best value ever." Oh, you're welcome. Yeah. So yeah, I was hard. I was really uh pretty excited about that deal. I'd show it to you now, but it's in my car actually because I took it out yesterday. But that $29 carbon fiber tabletop tripod, and it's an excellent tabletop It's the best tripod I own right now. Uh, that was a good deal. It's sold out now. You can't get it anymore. But I was very clear in my shopping live stream. You need to get this tripod now. If you were thinking about a tabletop tripod at all, now is the time to get it and to get this specific one at this price because you ain't going to see this again. I guarantee if I would almost put money on it that you'll never see a deal like that again on a tabletop tripod. That's for sure. Emily's always a good watch. So are the others you mentioned. Yes. Everyone's doing a fantastic job. I agree. So I'm going out to get the Kodak Chimera video from, oh, I don't have the Kodak Chimera. I have the Pocket Toy twin lens one. It's hardly worth making a video about though. It's not that great of a camera. It's probably better than the Kodak in my opinion, but so maybe I'm just old fashioned or old. Oh, no, no, nothing like that. Yeah, I agree with you. It's a little bit nicer looking camera. The OM1 when they in the EM1 Mark III and then the OM1, these are a little bit chunkier. I think they improved the looks on the OM1 over the EM1 Mark III and Mark II, but I still think the EM1 is still the better looking camera, you know, which is right. It's right here. So just for reference, right, side by side, uh, it's substantially smaller. It's hard to tell on the stream, but yeah, this is a beautiful camera. I mean, I thought it looked particularly good in silver. So when I had a chance to get a silver one, I was really happy. Needs a joystick though. But this is a beautiful camera. I agree. There are several MFT Emilys, Nerd Emily, Wildlife Emily, and I think at least one more. Yes, all of them are great. Well, I know Emily Nerd, Micro Four Nerds, and Emily Taupin, which does wildlife. Yeah, she's another one that puts her content out uh, to help you uh, with the OM system cameras because she's an OM ambassador. She makes great content too, and everything she teaches is always spot on. But I don't think she's even at 50,000 now. I mean, I crossed 50,000 by some magic, but I don't worry about subscribers. Everyone says they are getting less this year. Yes. I guess that's back when I was moaning about my YouTube income. Oh, I got a text. Okay. Sometimes I get a text from David or one of my other followers that watch, and they tell me, my live stream is down or frozen, something like that. Uh, Tom is great, but the effort he puts in his insane. Yeah, yeah. He makes it look easy though, right? But yeah, his I've always said this about Thomas Heaton. He climbs a mountain twice because he has to film himself going up the mountain, then he has to go back down, get his camera, then climb back up again and rinse and repeat, for several miles. It's crazy. And Heather says, Emily is a wonderful teacher, patient, and kind. I had the pleasure of learning refraction from her in Maine. Oh, okay, on the OM retreat. Awesome. Yeah, Emily is such a wonderful person. Emily Taupin. And the last time I had a joystick was on an Atari 800. Good old Atari 800. My neighbor kid, friend had that thing. It's funny you bring that up. I had a dream about him last night. I haven't seen him in 30 years, I think. And I had a dream about him last night that I met him as an adult. And uh, I just said hi, and that was it in the dream. But it was weird that I saw him. He grew up to be very successful, according to my mom, because she's still neighbors with the neighbor there. He's doing really well as an attorney or something. So I suspect Rob's tutorials did really well. Yeah, the tutorials do okay. They're getting a little long in the tooth though. Not the viewership on those are going down because the cameras are getting older, right? And I haven't done anything with the OM3 in terms of videos. Uh, yeah, nothing. If it was the younger me, I'd have probably had about a dozen videos on how to use this camera, right back in the old days. But I just don't have the energy like I used to. I remember when Jimmy lost a bunch because the OM1 people are he liked the OM1 people are not sure what you mean. He lost subscribers? I didn't know that. Seems to me that some YouTube channels put number of subscribers above objective and useful information. Yeah, they try too hard sometimes. I mean, ultimately, you have to have good content and useful content that people are going to watch because you're just going to fizzle away and die. And I think the only reason I'm still around is because at least my content is somewhat useful to some people, right? Whether I'm live streaming or creating video. And that's because YouTube's I never put the business before the content. The content is always needs to be useful in some way. Even my shopping streams, which are totally commission motivated, right? From one perspective, like if I was doing shopping live streams every week and not making a single sale, right? Because I do those on Tuesdays, I would still do them because I find good deals and I want to tell people about them, right? Uh, but some people they would not bother if they didn't make any sales on their shopping channel. Why would they bother to continue, right? Because their motivation is not in helping the community. The motivation is to earn a commission. Whereas my motivation is to share my passion and my dopamine hits I get when I hit the buy button because I buy all the stuff, not all, but I buy a lot of the stuff I'm promoting on the shopping stream, like the tabletop tripod. God knows I don't need another tripod, but I really wanted that one because it was such a good deal. Uh, and it's actually a really good tripod, and it gave me great pleasure to be able to share that with everyone. That this is such a great tripod. If you were thinking about a tabletop tripod, now is the time to get one. Um, And Andrew says, I have 3 lenses to review right now. The weather has been awful, not been able to get out and put them to work. Yeah. Oh, so you get some Seven Artisans and stuff. That's cool. I assume uh, it's one of the third-party lenses, not. But maybe OM Systems sent you some lenses to review. I don't know. They haven't reached out to me since the OM3. Like they sent me the OM3 early, right before launch. I guess they didn't like anything I did with it because they haven't reached out again. It's okay. I mean, I put out the content and help people where I thought I could help them. Like I have this huge thread on the MU43 forum, Micro Four Thirds forum. I have a huge thread there with thousands of views. And then I did 2 or 3 live streams showing the camera in hand and talking about it. Uh, I thought that was more useful that people could ask me questions like in the forum or ask me questions in the live stream than just making a showcase video and saying, look how beautiful this camera is. It is, I mean, honestly, I think it is a beautiful camera, but how is that helpful? You can see the camera for yourself. You either like it or you don't, you know? And everyone else did a good job talking about this camera. I didn't see the point of making another like video talking about the same thing everyone else says. It's well built, it's beautiful, it has all the features, it is what it is. It's my favorite camera, and I get, I totally get it that this is not a pragmatic choice. The OM1 Mark II would be a much better choice if you're just looking for the best camera for the money. OM1 Mark II, like David Crooks, no way would he buy this camera, right? Because he's more pragmatic about his photography. He's much more focused, more dedicated than I am. I told him that. I give him a hard time on the. I don't. If you're watching, David, I don't really mean to give you a hard time. I gotta tone down my sarcasm a bit in the field. But uh, he would never buy a camera like this, and that's okay, right? It's okay, but I talked him out of buying an OM1 Mark II because he has an OM1 Mark One. What does the OM1 Mark II really do? I mean, yeah, it has the bigger buffer, and that can be very, very useful. That is a very pragmatic reason to upgrade. But I think everything else, meh, you don't really need anything else the OM1 Mark II could possibly offer that the OM1 doesn't do. I mean, Grad ND filter. Just just buy a $20 Grad ND filter. Why upgrade and spend $2,000 on a camera just for that, right? Chris Frost. Yeah, that's him. Chris Frost is the one I was talking about that does those very, very methodical lens reviews. Um, and I like the work that he's doing. And in a way, that makes it much easier to do lens reviews, right? Because you get the lens and you do, okay, I'm going to do step A, step B, step C, D, E, F, G, and you're done. And you do it the same way every single time. Pretty straightforward. And yes, a reliable lens reviewer. He is very consistent. I mean, consistency is the key to uh, reviews, right? You have to be very, very consistent so that you compare lens A to lens B. So I definitely check out his reviews. I did find a couple of times where uh, I wouldn't say what I mean is you can never go wrong watching a Chris Frost lens review. Let me just start with that. But there were a couple of times where he reviewed the same lens I reviewed. I can't remember which lens it was, but our results were very different in whatever category it was. It had to do with lens flare or starburst or something. It was something where he did not get the same results I did. I got very good results for this particular metric for that lens, whereas he did not. And when we're talking about a sub $200 lens, I'll chalk that up to lens variation. You know what I mean? It's not like they send you 10 copies of it and you test all 10 copies, right? Because I guarantee if they send Chris Frost 10 copies of the same lens, he, every lens will be a little bit different. Maybe like 4 or 5 out of the 10, like half of them will be okay, pretty much the same. But then there'll be 4 or 5 that are kind of a little bit off in certain categories because there's always copy variation, at that price point, sub $200. So I don't knock his stream. I'm not knocking his stream at all. I'm just saying that I think the differences that I might get if I'm reviewing the same lens he does, because ultimately he's going to review every lens and it's going to overlap with the couple that I do, and his results will be different. It's going to happen eventually. And I just chalk it up to lens variation, not because one of us is doing a better job. It's not that at all. It's just we got different copies of the lens. Rob, if possible, please give more advance notice of chat's time. Okay. Uh, I will try. I've never been good at it because I my schedule is I'm a very random guy when it comes to photography. Like if the weather's nice, then I'm going to go out and shoot and I'm going to set the stream later, which is exactly what happened today because normally I start several hours. I start about 3 or 4 hours sooner than I normally do. So today I started for my time it'd be 1 p.m. I started, but I normally start at like 9:30. And I did that because the weather was going to be particularly good this morning, and I didn't know that until yesterday. So there's no way for me to kind of give a heads up and say the stream's going to start later, because the weather's good. And that's why I waited till early this morning to actually set up the stream because I wanted to check the weather again and make sure. Uh, and that's why time to time my streams will be at like a more random or weird time is because weather-wise an opportunity will come up for me to go out and do some photography and it's kind of random. Now if I was treating this channel more like a business, yeah, I would be Johnny on the spot every time because one of the keys to success is consistency, like Chris Frost. He has a very successful lens review channel because he's very, very consistent. Timing is another consistency that's very, very important. And that's something that, YouTube for me is kind of secondary to my photography. If I got an opportunity to go out and shoot, I'll do that and then I'll stream whenever I can. I try to stream on the same day, Tuesday, Friday, Sunday. I try to stream on those days. And in that sense, I'm about 99%. So Tuesday, Friday, Sunday. But the timing on those 3 days can be off a couple of hours in any direction. So some days I might stream like at my normal, most of the time I start at like 9:30, and then there might be a time, okay, I need to start at 8 because I have to go early, go do a photo shoot. Or I might have to start a little later because we're gonna have this amazing sunrise, or potential for one, and I'm not gonna be able to make it back in time to do the stream. So I started later. So I'm sorry about that. But that's just how it is for me over here. Uh, and I know it hurts my viewership, and it certainly hurts my subscribers, and I apologize for that. But uh, photography is my passion, right? So I always put that first. Isn't the M1 Mark III the same as? Yes, it's the same. The Mark II and the Mark III are identical. So if I said otherwise earlier, I misspoke. The EM1 Mark II and the EM1 Mark III are the most comfortable cameras I've ever handled. Uh, The EM1 Mark One, not as comfortable. It's fine. It's a little smaller camera, so I have small hands, so this fits me great. But the difference, and it's very subtle. It's here on the back. This is still relatively straight, but it is rounded nicely, so it feels comfortable in the hand. I don't have a Mark II or a Mark III anymore. I traded those somewhere along the lines when I got the OM1. But those have just like my Canon R8 here. Of course, I put a grip on it. But if you look, the M1 Mark II and Mark III are like this, where the the grip has this nice slant and rounding to it right here. So when I put this in my hand, yeah, it feels so good. Just that little difference of tilting your hand just a little bit up like this and holding it. Um, and the OM1 has a little bit, not, it doesn't slant in so much, but it comes out more on the top. Whereas this OM1 Mark or this OM3 is a block. So this is probably the most uncomfortable camera I own in terms of handling. Because when you look at the OM1, you can see it's straight here, but it protrude out a little bit at the top. So when I hold it, it's not so blocky feeling. But the back here is completely straight. If you guys have a Mark One, or I'm sorry, if you have a Mark II or a Mark III, if you look at your camera, you'll notice that the back slants in a little bit. And that makes a huge difference in how the camera feels in your hand. And this side towards screens, a year from now, YouTube is going to be AI slop, unfortunately. I hope not. I hope not. Uh, I think success on YouTube is ultimately going to come to people who are still authentic in the long term. Authenticity is always going to trump AI. AI is going to be great at creating content and entertaining content and stuff that people watch, right? I think AI will be successful on YouTube, but ultimately, there's still going to be room for authentic creators like myself and others who are authentic, right? And not generating AI slop, so, as you say. The people that are going to fail are people that are not authentic and not on YouTube for the right reasons, right? They're on YouTube trying to compete with AI. They're going to fail. You're not going to beat AI. Just like, computers can now be chess masters, right? Grandmasters in chess. There's no grandmaster anymore that can beat a computer. And that's been true for a long time. Ultimately, AI is going to be at a point to where content creators trying to compete with AI are not going to survive. They just can't compete. However, if their content is unique and authentic, they will be successful, right? Uh, because ultimately, we as human beings, we're very social creatures and we're looking for authentic people, people that we can believe in, right? And trust, uh, and know who they are, right? And what their motivations are. Not not people that are coming on and being fake and trying to create content that they think you're going to like, right? I don't necessarily create content like a lot of my peers. We don't necessarily create content that we think people are going to like, right? We try to we try to always create things we think you're going to enjoy and appreciate or learn from, you know, but ultimately it always comes from the fact that we enjoy and like the thing that we're trying to share with you ourselves, right? So, we all of us, Jimmy, Robin, Peter at one point, not recently, but when Peter's focusing more on his YouTube channel, he's focusing more on photography now. But uh, Emily, we all have a passion, and Peter, we all have a passion for photography, and we want to share that with you and that passion, and share with you our experience, and teach or help or teach you or help you with your own photography. That is our motivation. Uh, and gaining subscribers and generating income, yeah, that's kind of a side, it's kind of a perk for us, right? We're not, at least for me, it's kind of a perk. I'm not trying to drive business and revenue through my channel first. I'm always trying to help people as much as I can and share with you my experience and my passion for photography. Uh, I'm not always trying to create content and compete and try to create things I think you're going to like. I'm just sharing here and helping as much as I can. And Andrew asks, what is this tripod? Oh, I will have to show you a screenshot. Hopefully I don't, uh, because the tripod is in my car. Actually, I do have a little bit of video of me using it because I was recording it as part of a review for a flash. But by the way, this is my deal page, https robtrek.com/deals. The link is in the description below. So if you do want to support my channel, uh, you buy anything on this page, I'll earn a commission, and every little bit helps, or I should say is greatly appreciated. And I try to pick out deals. I hand pick all these. It was this one here. You can see I bought mine recently, just last week, and it's gone, $29. This was an amazing tripod. You will not find another one like this at this price ever again, unfortunately. My thinking is they had a bunch of these left in stock and they just got rid of them because this used to be, they were asking $100 for this tripod at one point. And if you look at the competition, like here's the exact same tripod, just with a different name on it, 80 bucks. And oh, here's another one. Exact same tripod, $80. It was a deal for $29, but it's gone, unfortunately. Okay. I suspect most popular videos have titles like "My photography sucked until I did this" or "5 tricks even the pros don't know." Yeah. Yeah, they're very clickbaity, right? And it's okay. I mean, it's okay to make the title a little bit interesting, right? But it only works for people that you already trust, right? Like if I made a title like that, 5 tricks that change my photography, or 5 tricks that are game changers, whatever the buzzwords are, uh, a lot of you will probably click on it because you trust me as a creator and as a photographer. You trust me that I'm going to, give you good content related to that. And I make the title a little bit clickbaity just to get attention from new viewers, right? Because if you look at a lot of the titles of my videos, they're not very clickbaity. They're, because I'm just not, I'm just, it just seems odd to me. Uh, I'm gonna look at, yeah. So I'm just looking at the titles of my videos. Sometimes I try to make them a little more interesting. But like this, photographer's review of the Insta360 Ace Pro 2, the best 8K action cam, which I believe, right? Godox X3 trigger overview and setup. Coleman Zero carbon fiber tripod and review. Okay, this one's a little bit clickbaity. The awesome Viltrox, but this is an awesome lens. For less than 200 bucks, I think it's on sale for like 150 or something. Uh, Here's the title, Testing the New Viltrox. So, how to update firmware. It's but you get the idea. My titles are very pragmatic. They just tell you what I'm doing. But I get, but when I create the video, I get these recommendations for titles, and they just seem outlandish to me. I'm like, why on earth would I say this is a game changer or this is the best thing ever? It's not. It's not a game changer. It's not the best thing ever. It's good for its price point, but it's not the best thing ever. It's not going to change your photography or make you a better photographer. Uh, it's just, I can't do it. I can't do it. Um, the only reason I put the best AK action cam in that title uh, is, well, I mean, I think it is the best 8K action cam out there, but I was very specific in my wording. 8K action cam. Not every action cam can do 8K. So it's probably true statement on top of being a little bit clickbaity. But anyway, clickbait just means it's a good title. Yep, absolutely. And Andy says there's a lot of Chinese companies labeling the same stuff. I had a run-in with GVM a couple of months ago when they asked me to compare their product with a spec sheet of an Amaran light. I wasn't prepared to do that, so they suggested I buy the light from Amazon, compared it, and then return the light to Amazon. Yeah, that's not right. Um, the Insta360 folks offered to send me the they sent me the Insta360, whatever that action cam was, Ace Pro 2, and they offered to send me the GoPro, the latest GoPro, the 13 or 15, whatever it is, the latest. They offered to send me both cameras and compare them for a video review. And I said, no, that's not necessary. I'm not going to compare because then all of a sudden the video is going to be uh, very technical, right? Because now I got to compare what's the low light capability, what's the field of view, what's the image quality, how many megapixels, like what are the features that this has that this suddenly the review gets very, very technical. So I said, no, I don't want a GoPro. I said, no, I don't want it. I'm not gonna do a video for that. Um, and there was also an opportunity to get paid to do the video. I said, no, that's not necessary. I said, just send me the camera and I'll review it and use it the way I would use it if I bought it for myself. And I happen to use a lot of 360. If you saw my video, you'll know I use a lot of 360 Insta360 products. But I didn't I turn down paid videos all the time. I've been paid for a single video I've ever made, just so you know. I've never been paid. Now I get the gear for free to keep, okay? So you can look at that as a payment, but I don't look at it as free gear. I bust my ass to make those videos. I mean, I work pretty hard to make those videos. Uh those video reviews. It's not like a one outing I go out and take a few pictures and come back and crank out a 10-minute video. It's like it takes me weeks to go out when the weather's good, et cetera, et cetera. Like Andrew was saying earlier, the weather hasn't been great, so I hadn't had a chance to go out. So there's a lot of timing issues there. Uh, but yeah, I was like, I get these videos. We'll pay you $500. We'll pay you $1,000, for this and that and the other thing. And yeah, I declined them all. Now, if I was running my channel truly as a business, that would completely make sense, right? Like, okay, I'm going to do a review. Of course, this can be maybe I'll make it a showcase and I'll talk about this product. But ultimately, I don't know if I can do that, you know, doing a showcase on a product. Uh, it just, it's just not who I am. You know what I mean? I said, if people want to watch my videos, they'll watch them and I'll make a few pennies on the ad revenue, even though it's down 25% this year for whatever reason. But um, everything is down. Donations are down by more than 50%, and views are down slightly, but revenue is down a lot. Donations are down a lot. It's like crazy. There was a time I was in a bad mood, but there was a time back in, I think it was August or September. I was like, you know what? Why am I doing YouTube anymore? What's the point of it? You know? Um, I was in a bad mood. But I just had that going through my mind for a couple of days. Like, I got a stream coming up. Maybe this could be my last one. And then I'll just, okay, heck with it, you know? Um, but then, I don't know. I got a good night's rest or something, had a good day out in the field and feeling good again. And I wanted to come out and talk about photography like I am today, right? Like I talked about the stuff that, even though this morning was really frustrating with that park ranger, I enjoyed talking about it and sharing that with you guys. So I'm going to continue to do YouTube uh, for the foreseeable future and nothing to worry about there. But trust me, it's come up a couple of times, uh, this year. Not so much last year. Last year, I think I was fine. But this year, it was like August, September, when I started seeing second quarter, uh, revenue and views and donations. It was like, these are all way, way down. Commission sales from like affiliates like Amazon, everything is like way down. And I'm like, I was in August and I was like, you know, I could be doing other things, going out and actively looking for actual more photo jobs than I do already, which are far and few between these days. But um and I seriously I had the thumbnail ready. I put in the thumbnail like goodbye or something. Thanks for the thanks for your time. Thanks for all the good years and all that. I had the thumbnail down and I was just thinking about it this was like August, it was a couple of months back. I can't remember exactly. I was just not in a good mood and I was ready. I was ready to just say, 8 years, that's enough. That was a good run. But thank God I didn't because I wouldn't be having fun like I am today. Anyway, let me catch up where I was. Clickbaity titles for me are a red flag just as ads on telly or the radio. It's literally a turnoff. Yes, it can be. We get a little bit, uh, our radar goes up, right? You see a clickbaity title, and immediately you're thinking, this is going to be crap. But unfortunately, if you put up, you know, YouTube's algorithm is very heavily weighted on how many people click on your video, and having a clickbaitable title gets more people clicking on it. But ultimately, you have to have good content to back it up. So that's what I was saying. If I start putting out a bunch of clickbaity titles, It'll be a little bit unlike me, but I'll probably get good, I'll probably get the same viewership and views that I always do and not see a drop. If anything, I'll probably see new subscribers come in. Or it's probably better to say, probably nobody will unsubscribe from my channel because my clickbait title, unless when they watch the video is nothing but crap too. But if I keep producing the same content, I'll gain a few subscribers and I'll keep the ones that I have if the content is the same, regardless of what the title is like. But I'm just not good at making clickbaity titles, and YouTube will give me recommendations for titles I can use and say, this is a better title, it has a 98% rating of being clickable. And I'm like, yeah, but is it though? I'm like, is it really, is it really, is it really a game changer? Is it really the best camera ever or the best lens ever? It's like, I don't know if I can really use a title like that and feel good about it. You know what I mean? My definition of clickbait is promising stuff you don't deliver. Yeah, exactly. Going back to uh, ultimately, you have to have the content to back it up. Lee Hoy is a great example, right? In a different way. He says what's on his mind, but he has the experience in photography to back it up, you know? So he can get away with talking like that. Imagine me being like Lee Hoy with no filter and just saying exactly what's on my mind, right? But then you look at my photography and you're like, really, Rob? Really? Are you sure 100% that you should be doing this with your camera? I mean, look at your photo. How, you know what I mean? Look at that picture. That doesn't make any sense. So, but if Lee Hoy says something, right? It's okay. Well, let's see the photo. Oh, okay. So you got that shot using this technique. All right. No problem. I believe you, right? But if I say like use this particular technique and you'll get this kind of photography, and you'll up your game, and then you look at the photo and you're like, well, anybody can take that shot. You don't need the special technique. You can do that 10 different ways. The way you do it is not necessarily the best. I don't know. Anyway, uh, it's interesting that Insta360 are suggesting they send you the competition too. That's interesting. Insta360 uh had a bad rep for oh yeah, a while ago. I remember that drama. Yeah, they've backed off from that 100%. That's for sure. But what Andrew's referring to is they were telling content creators, don't tell people that this video is sponsored. Don't tell people that we gave you this camera to review. They were telling people not that they wanted people to think that content reviewers were buying their cameras and giving you their honest opinion because they have skin in the game. They bought the camera. They don't do that. They backed off. Somewhere in my video in the beginning, I say, I'd like to thank 360 for sending me this video, but I'm not being paid or sponsored. That's a different thing. But there was a lot of content creators that were taking money, and they were telling the creators, don't tell people we paid you to do this video. Yeah, they were getting in a big stink about that. But that was not my experience with them at all. My experience was as you saw, right? And Andrew says, I took a payment earlier this year for a Boya mic, but I insisted that the video was sponsored. I was pretty happy that the product was actually good, else I would have felt very bad. Yes. That's always the catch, right? Is uh, getting, when you get paid for a product review, there's sort of this, I wouldn't say unconscious, but there's sort of this, a little bit of pressure that you want to give them a good review. Like they're paying me to do this review. This, I want to spin this the best way I can. And even when I get a product for free, there's that sort of in the back of my head. It's like they were kind enough to send me this lens. Um, I should try to just, be as positive as I can about it because, I didn't pay anything for it. Uh, but what I end up doing, if you watch my reviews, if, there's a lot of reviews you guys aren't going to care about because they're for Sony and other cameras. But I just, I qualify my any faults with the product. I qualify that with this is less than $200. This is a $130 lens. You know what I mean? So I'll say for $130, you can't go wrong. And that's the God's honest truth. If you're paying less than $200 for a lens, there's going to be compromises somewhere. No lens is going to be any good at less than $200. Well, let me rephrase that. For less than $200, you're getting a great lens, and it's going to be more than good enough for 99% of the kind of photography that I think a lot of my viewers are going to be doing, which is just enthusiast stuff, right? Just hobby stuff. And if you're doing professional work, you can certainly do professional work. Like I reviewed an 85 millimeter 1.8 for a Sony. You can certainly do pro work with that. The quality is more than good enough. And it was only like a $285 lens, something like that. And with that in mind, it's very easy to put a positive spin on a product that doesn't cost that much. It's like, yeah, this is a great product for $285. It's more than good enough for most things. But is a professional really going to buy a lens like that? No, they're probably going to go buy a G Master for their Sony because they want 100% autofocus. They want, uh, perfect optics. They want the perfect focusing speed. They want everything. They want everything as smooth as possible when they go out and do their job. That's what a professional is going to do. Professionals are not watching videos for a $285 lens, right? They're watching the G Master lenses, the $2,000 lenses. They're not watching $200 lens reviews. Um, so I look at every lens from the perspective of most people are going to be using this as part of their hobby, right? So that's, it is what it is. And Heather says PureShot Photo has a very similar tabletop tripod for $42, same brand model. 265, yeah, $42. That's not bad. That's a decent price. It's not $29 like it was at GVM, but thanks for sharing that. That's cool. And if you take money, it feels like you're beholden to them. Yeah. I mean, it's for people that are really business minded, that has no effect on you in your review. So, for example, I know Emily Micro Four Nerds did a showcase for the Insta-3. I didn't watch the video, uh, but she's a little bit immune to the um, influence that a company may have just because they're paying you. You know what I mean? Because you have enough subscribers and enough contacts and enough other things you can be doing than getting paid to review their product. You don't need their product or their money, and you can do it and be honest about it. Smaller content creators, myself included, I'm tiny, okay? Uh, you know, that could be a little bit of an issue. Like, I can be a little bit intimidated or feel beholden because they paid me. And that's why I've never been paid. I've never taken a paid uh, review. Somebody like Tony and Chelsea, they're at that level where they could care less if they get paid, you know, for review because they make so much money on other things that the content that they create is their honest and fair opinion of that product.
I don't agree with their opinions a lot of times, but it's their honest and fair opinion. Um, Chris and Jordan over Petapixel, they get sent all the gear for free. I don't know how much, if they're sponsored or not, probably not. I don't know what their business model is like, but they're also in a good position to give a very honest and fair review, and they always have. I don't feel like I've ever seen them ever be dishonest, and they're very clear when they're doing a commercial for something, right? Um, but yeah, there's this little gap, or there's this little space of, I think, creators that will feel beholden and feel obligated to give a positive review if they're being paid. And I get that, I get that. So you can watch those videos, but only look for basically the kind of the specs and uh, any of the positives that they have. Always do your due diligence and check other reviews of the same product, right? And see if that's, uh, if that's reinforced. What's the word I'm looking for? But if what they're saying makes sense or is in line with what other reviews are saying. But it's like when a product launches, right? I'm always Johnny come lately. Like I'll get the product, except for the one exception of the OM3. I'll always get the product months after it's released. Like this IT20, how long has this has been out for months, right? And I'm only now just getting it because I insisted I'm going to wait until the Olympus version comes out. You know what I mean? They sent me two. They sent me one for Canon and one for Olympus because I asked for two. Can you believe I got a little pushback on that? It's like, no, it's different. The OM system cameras have very, very different requirements for flash than the Canon. You cannot test this IT20 on a Canon and expect it to work the same on an OM system camera. It just cannot. Uh, so that's why I insisted they send me two, and that's why it's taken so long for me to get that flash, is because it was a while before they were available. Uh, I will say I am getting the new IT, I think it's an IT 32, something like that. I asked them to send me two of them. I think one was, I think, Fuji and one was OM Systems. But Godox is one of the few, if not the only third-party manufacturer that supports Olympus cameras that I know of natively, right? I mean, you can get the manual flashes, that works on any camera, but I'm talking about TTL. So, yeah, I'm always Johnny come lately. I rarely get things, if ever, ahead of time. I might get a lens for a Sony camera or something. I actually I do have a couple lenses right now that are NDA that I'm not being paid. But I told them, you need to send me one for Fuji and one for OM Systems. I'm not going to do the lens review with just one system, right? I could do it for Micro Four Thirds only, but when you see the review, you understand why I wanted to get the Fuji one also. Yeah, was it? I got a Fuji and an OM Systems. When I it's sometime next month. It's supposed to be released. You'll see it. There's a reason I wanted to get both and not just OM Systems. Otherwise, I would have just done only the OM system version. But there's a reason I really had to do both. Um, but anyway, that's enough about that. I don't know if you guys really care about the back end stuff that I do because it's not that interesting. It's just business as usual, right? The only difference is I know at least right now I've not taken any money from anyone. And when I do get a free product like a $40 flash, trust me, I spent way more time than 40 bucks, whatever that flash is worth, than I've spent more time than a flash is worth. Indeed, that's why I insist that the video was a sponsored one and made no preference that it won't. Oh, okay, that's not to me. It's always such an enjoyable conversation. It's always chill. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm kind of a chill, laid back guy, right? And Andrew says it's the click and the watch time. Clicks without watch time will hurt your channel. Exactly. Yeah, people click on it, then say this is BS and leave. Yeah, ultimately your video is not going to last. Uh, Increasingly, YouTubers seem to be salesmen for their sponsors. Could be. I would I would say there's more channels coming online that are more about being sponsored and creating content for sponsors, more so than people changing over and becoming sponsors for their or becoming making videos for their sponsors. Um, you know, I've just gotten a little bit lazy with making regular videos, like not sponsored, not well, I don't want to say sponsored, but not like review videos. I do the review videos because I pretty much have to. They send me the product, I have to do it, but because I do so many live streams. If I wasn't live streaming as often as I did, then I'd be out right now doing a vlog or something instead of live streaming, right? And then editing it and putting that together. Oh, I was going to show you guys some video. And that's not to me. Let's see. The IT32, yeah, the IT32 looks awesome. Rapid fire that review. Would love your opinion. Yeah, we'll see. Because if you guys saw my reviews on the Olympus or OM System flashes, I'm very specific to OM System Olympus, right? I don't just make a flash video. Like when I reviewed this IT20, I'm gonna make a more in-depth review on the Canon about the flash itself. But then I'm gonna make a separate review for the OM System camera for the specific features on OM System, like focus stacking and bracketing. That's a big one on OM Systems, right? Because believe it or not, just about every Canon camera, you cannot do focus bracketing or stacking with a flash. You have to get their high-end model like an R5 Mark II or something. But a lot of their cameras don't have focus bracketing and flash. Can you believe that? Because what happens is focus bracketing goes into silent shutter mode, and you can't use flash with electronic shutter on most Canons. There's a couple of the higher end ones, and maybe now the R6 Mark III you can, but I'm pretty sure the R6 Mark II, you cannot do focus bracketing with electronic shutter. It's crazy. So that's why I'm very specific about OM systems. Like if you're gonna send me a flash, I need at least an OM system flash. And if you can, send me both, one for OM systems and one for one of the other cameras that I have. And then I can really do, because buyers of this flash are going to be a little bit different, right? People buying the IT20 for a Canon are not going to be the same people buying an IT20 for an OM system camera. Because on OM system, we're thinking about focus bracketing and in-camera stacking and continuous shooting and silent shutter mode. We're thinking about all these things for the flash versus Canon shooter. They don't have the option to even think about focus bracketing, right? They're probably shooting like a Canon R50 or some little tiny DSLR, and they just want to take pictures of their friends with it. Because Canon has a lot of entry-level cameras, right? Uh, the R50, the R100, the R10. They have all these like sub $1,000 cameras, like 10 of them, you know? And these are the people going to be buying the IT20. People buying an IT20 on an OM system camera, what do we got? OM5 Mark II? OM1 Mark II, OM3. These are not, entry-level cameras, right? These are mid-tier, top-tier cameras. So the IT20 buyer for that camera is going to be very, very different. And that's why I requested for the flashes, I try to get two. Uh, like I did the V480, I did one for Sony, and then I did one for OM Systems, and those reviews are very, very different, right? The two reviews, they're not the same. Uh, and both videos got about the same number of views. It's not like the views went down on the second one. They were about the same because they're different people buying the flash. You have a lot of entry-level people buying Canon and Nikon and Sony because they have all these entry-level cameras. OM Systems, there's no entry-level camera. I mean, there's an EM10, but nobody buys that anymore. Okay? I mean, some of you might, but I'm just saying that's not at the top of the list for a lot of people when they're out shopping for a camera. They're looking for uh, if they're looking at OM System at all, they're looking at the top tier cameras, the OM3, OM1 Mark II. Okay. That tiny controller seems so cool. I can't even remember what we're talking about there. My bad. Uh, you are rocking in that plaid shirt today. Oh, thanks. I got this on Amazon, like 10 bucks or something. I was telling people at lunch today, it's like it started with like this $26 coat that I bought, right? Or it was maybe $29, whatever. I bought this really cheap coat. And I'm like, okay, I'm good. I'm good, right? And then uh there's another deal I found, like $5 for a dress shirt. It's like, oh, okay. And you get that little dopamine hit when you hit that buy button, right? It's like click, click. Oh, yeah, that's a good deal. That's a good deal. And then next thing you know, I'm out like at almost $1,000 between all the pants and shirts and sweaters and coats that I bought. But the most expensive thing that I bought was $100. Okay. That was the most expensive thing. Most of the stuff I bought on average was like around $10 or less. Like I got 3 pairs of wool socks for a dollar. 3 pair. You can't buy 3 pairs of nothing for a dollar. Anyway, enough about my wardrobe, but thank you. I appreciate that. I thought I'd try something different because I'm usually wearing just plain shirts, right? Solid colors. You rarely see me in anything else. So I thought I'd try to expand a little bit. And what inspired this plaid shirt actually was uh, a Burberry raincoat that I was looking at. I couldn't buy it because they wanted $500 for it, but Burberry are like $1,000, $2,000 coats, and I had an opportunity to get one for 500, but I ain't spending that. I feel a little guilty spending $100 on a coat. It was an $800 coat, and I got it for $100. But anyway, the Burberrys have the plaid interior, right? And I thought that was such a nice contrast to the solid exterior of the raincoat. So I said, you know what, let me try that. So I tried to find a plaid shirt that had a similar uh, check pattern as the Burberry. This is a different color, of course. Burberrys are usually more of a beige, tan, etc. Anyway, what was I working on? I was looking for something video-wise. Uh, what would that be under my projects? What was I? Oh, I was showcasing the flash, so it'd be under projects under IT20. And of course, I can't find it now. What's today's date? 22nd, 23rd. I just did this. Oh, here it is. Is this it? Yeah, this is some B-roll. Uh, let's see if I can pull it up so you guys can watch it. This is some B-roll. I'm testing the IT20 for focus bracketing here, I believe. And this is the tripod, the tabletop tripod that I was using that I got for $29. Beautiful tripod. It's really freaking awesome. $29. That was a deal. I'm sorry you guys can't get that anymore. And then I got some, let's see, I have some other B-roll in here. Let's see. Yeah, just same old, same old. This is another angle of the tripod you can see. But I was taking pictures of these flowers. There's the IT20 on the OM system camera. So I'm gonna have this stuff. That's the B-roll I took for the review of the IT20 for the OM3 or for the OM system cameras. Emily seemed very honest. Yeah, I watched the first one she did, and yeah, she has such an excitement and enthusiasm in photography gear. If you compare her video to mine, is very different. Um, but that's why she has more than twice as many subscribers, right? Because she's so much more fun to watch than my channel. And Chris and Jordan are sponsored by OM System, or at least their podcast is great investment, if you ask me. Yes, I agree. But see, they make that clear, right? That they're being sponsored. I don't think anyone is immune to this stuff. Yeah, possibly. I mean, there's always at a subconscious level, right? You want to do a good job, and you don't feel like you're doing a good job for the people paying you if you crap on their product, right? So, and Bob O'Neill says, I'm cautious about software reviews after watching one for a product I use, and it was very obvious that the reviewer hadn't spent much time learning how to use the product. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, if you like, if we're talking about photo editing software, um, I can give you a good example that Luminar sent me, they gave me like a lifetime license to their products. I never used them and I never did a review. And they emailed me several times asking me, can you do a review? We can sponsor you, etc. I said, it's a nice photo editing software, but I can't wrap my head around the workflow. And I'm very content with DxO Photolab, more than content. I'm very happy with Photolab. So thanks, but no thanks. But I do have their software. I just never use it. Now, DxO Photolab, uh, I haven't never done a review on it specifically. I have talked about, if we're talking about videos, I have done videos about DxO, like their color palette, the DxO wide gamut. I've done videos like on my photo editing workflow. It's been a while. And I did do one video where uh, if you're trying to think about buying DxO Photolab, Nik Collection, Film Pack, which two should you buy? Because they were running a promotion where if you buy Photolab, you get one free, something like that. I can't remember exactly what the promotion was. But if you bought two software, you got a really good deal. If you instead of just buying one, you can buy one, get one free kind of thing. And so I made a video about like which two should you pick if you're going to pick two because everybody wants a good deal, right? So I did a video like that. Yeah. But you never see me do a video review about Nik Collection because I only use it time to time. I think it's a great product, but I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna make a video review about it and hype it when I don't really use it myself that much. Because DxO is always asking me about, doing videos for their other products, and I just don't use them that much. They look like great products and they're kind of neat. A couple of things I do use them for, but it would be hard for me to make a video about it. Now, Photolab, I could do a video review about that product, but I don't feel it's quite as useful as the weekly live streams that I do, where you can send me your photo and I edit it there for you live. And if you have any questions, I'm always open to questions during the streams as well. Like, can you do this? Can you do that? Or why did you use this tool? Or does Photolab have something like, somebody asked me about, does it have like a radial gradient? I said, yeah. It's a control point. It's a little different workflow, but it's very similar to radial gradients. Or does Photolab have a clarity slider like in Lightroom? I said, yeah, it's called the clear view, but it's basically the same thing, et cetera, et cetera. So and then I can demo it and show you where it is. And, you know, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like it's more helpful to do live streams of your photos rather than me cherry picking my own photos and showing you what Photolab can do. Like if I really wanted to do a review on Photolab, I would show you this picture. Like I would show you this one because that's a picture that's ISO 12,800. But I cleaned that up nicely with DxO Photolab. But I can tell you, not every 12,800 ISO picture comes out that good. You know what I mean? For a fact, that's this came out exceptionally well. That photo, and I would make a video and I would cherry pick photos like this, right? And say you got to get DxO. It's the very best denoising algorithm, and it is. It is the very best. But not every photo is going to come out that good and be that clean when I'm taking an image from a Micro Four Thirds camera, 12,800 ISO. A lot of them don't come out that good, but this one did. But if I was doing a video review, those would be the only ones I show you. I cherry pick. So I never did a DxO Photolab video review that I can think of. I don't think I did one. Uh, so I know exactly where you're coming from because I've been using the software for so many years now, and I know its strengths and weaknesses. And I know when I bring an image in, that's low light, well, let me rephrase that. The image is underexposed at high ISO and it's underexposed. You are not bringing that back. I don't care if it was ISO 100. If you got an underexposed image in low light, if you try to bring that back up to a normal exposure, yeah, you're going to get noise, and no noise reduction is going to help you. Um, so anyway, I'm with you. And Julio says, I just ordered the IT32 for Olympus and I will get it tomorrow. It is very special flash and can't wait to get it. Looking forward to your review and firmware update. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll do that. Um, so I should be getting mine soon then. If it's been released for Olympus, and I think the other one I asked for was Fujifilm. If it's been released for those cameras, then I should be getting it soon. I don't know why it takes so long sometimes, but so I've been a technology reviewer since the late 1980s, and I can still assure you that most reviews of complex software and hardware are very difficult to justify on a monetary basis because, whoops, I lost it. Deadlines and fees. Oh, okay. Don't justify the effort. Yeah. If you want very honest software reviewers, turn to Andy Hutchinson, who is one of my opposite numbers at Competitor Publisher in the 90s. He's honest and blunt, funny too. Okay. I just took a turn towards photo editing software because that's the only software I really use. I don't know what kind of software Andy Hutchinson reviews, but thanks for sharing that. Um, there's just not enough with Canon RF that makes me stay away so far. Yep. I will say the Canon R8 has been a really good camera. I had some frustration using it at an event, primarily because of the overheating in the battery. So I was kind of pushing the camera beyond what it was really designed for, not for professional use, right? Because I was trying to use this professionally for an event for video, and it was overheating and the battery died. So I'm not faulting the camera. That's just me not buying the right camera for the job. Thankfully, I brought the OM3 and everything was fine. The battery on that was awesome. And the video was really good too. 99% of the video I used for that event project was off the OM3, and I wasn't able to use too much from the Canon R8 because the battery it would overheat and cut off. So it gave me some really awkward cuts in my uh, final edit that I delivered to the customer because the freaking Canon died right when I was moving the OM3 to another position, like another spot in the floor. The Canon overheated and stopped recording. So now I have this gap, like of no like in the presentation. I'm like, all right, so how am I going to cut this so it doesn't? That's okay. It came out fine, but it was really frustrating, and it was my fault. He's one I don't trust. He tries to cover too many products and doesn't spend much effort on learning. I agree he's funny and blunt, but not rely. Oh, okay. So a little difference of opinion there. And I know Andy from years back, and I would trust him. Yep. You'll find that. You'll find this true of some people connect with people differently, right? Like there's a lot of people, they will never connect with my content or my live streams or with me at all. They're never gonna like me, no matter what. Man, I've gotten some flaming posts, you know, and it doesn't bother me anymore. It used to bother me. It doesn't bother me anymore. But I've gotten some flaming posts. I'm like, it's okay, man. There's like a billion YouTube channels out there you can watch. Why would you waste 5 seconds of your time criticizing me, right? You know what I mean? It's like, don't waste your time. So I take the only comfort I take is knowing that they wasted their time writing a nasty comment to me, that I wasted their time. That's my only retribution, is knowing that I wasted their time. Now, I don't feel good about wasting people's time that they watched and then they just went to another channel because I wasted their time. I feel bad about that. But if somebody takes the time to write me a nasty, like really rude, nasty comment, uh, I don't feel bad at all. I wasted their time. I look at it as my retribution to them. So, well, I wasted your time. I don't know who's worse off, you or me. You know what I mean? I'm certainly no worse off because I don't care about your comment, but you're worse off because I wasted your time. So there. But I don't want to waste people's time. I do feel bad when I waste people's time. That were sincerely coming to me to learn something, and just left, without learning anything. Then I feel kind of bad. But Often my main dress shop men's stores is Goodwill. Just wash it. Yeah. Yep. I would say 80% of my clothing has been from Goodwill up until this past week when I went on this splurge, dopamine splurge of buying clothes. Oh, it felt good buying all this stuff, but not all of it's come in yet, but uh yeah, yeah, Goodwill is awesome. $5 shirts, can't beat that. Hi Rob, do you have any idea about something longer than 75.18 and still faster than a 40 to 152.8? I only know about a 4/3 150 f2, which is expensive and hard to find, and the 35 102, which is similar. And have you tried one of these? Ah, gosh, the only, I mean, if you're willing to look at, if you're willing to look at 4/3 lenses, then the 50, this old one, let me see. I don't know if this is faster than a 2.8 though. This is a, the 50 to 200, the original 4/3 one, but this is an f2.8 to f3.5. Um, but this lens is really sharp. And it's only, what, 2/3 of a stop slower than a 2.8. But this has some good reach. 50 to 200, just like the new one. Yeah. And you can probably find that pretty cheap. If you're thinking about a prime, though, I can't think of anything with autofocus. Obviously, there's a lot of uh, primes without, manual focus in that range, but not autofocus. Sorry, I can't think of anything. So I'd rather watch your channel. Oh, okay, you guys are still talking to each other. Andrew says, I use Nick a lot, but only color effects, analog and silver. Photolab is excellent, and your demo it brilliantly, Rob. Best recommendations is showing something in use in a real environment. Okay, thanks. I think so. I mean, I think so, but maybe, not everyone thinks so, but I think so. And Lawrence is still using Photoscape. Nothing fancy, and the denoise is real old school, but I know how fast I can knock out images. What do you think about Microsoft requirements for the update 11? I'm not familiar with the updates for Microsoft, but I know Photolab is awesome. I'm sorry, Photoscape. Photoscape is free, okay? There's a paid version, but the free version does probably 80, 90% of what the paid version does. The major handicap with the Photoscape free version is you cannot save, uh, you can't like come back to a photo and keep working on it later. As soon as you close the program, it forgets everything. So you have to save the photo, but you can't like go back and continue editing it later. But other than that, you know, the free version is amazing. And yeah, the denoising is simple, but just expose your photos properly and you'll be fine. And then you can always add in the OM Workspace software to help with denoising on some cameras. So there's always that because OM Workspace has AI denoise for their OM1 cameras. I haven't tried it with other cameras. It may work on other cameras, but I know on OM1 you can denoise with AI. It's not as good as Photoscape or Photolab and stuff, but uh, there's always something, right? And Eric says, "Oh, hey, Eric, great watch is Stephen Brook mastering industrial photography, 7 essential steps." Ooh, that's interesting. I would love to watch that. I'm going to make a note. Stephen Brooks, industrial photo. Thanks for that one. I'll definitely check that out. Never heard of him. And Lauren says Rob needs to at least try Mac OS. Costco and Best Buy has from time to time the Mac Mini for 500. Add a 4K monitor and you have an inexpensive powerhouse. Tahoe update sucks though. One day, Lauren, you know my history with Apple, so yeah, it's not happening anytime soon. And I meant to say Tahoe update sucks on my Mac M1, at least for me. Okay. And Ellie loves you. Don't worry about what people post on social media. Dogs and cats are more kind. Yes. She just walked in here, actually. She's behind me. Sigma 152.8. Oh, okay. Wonderful lens. Way cheaper than the Ollie 150 f2. Okay. I guess, I made an assumption you were looking for a micro four thirds lens. I don't think the 150-2.8 is available in micro four thirds. And Chris says, "Hi Rob, I find my biff shots are rarely as sharp as my wash shots, bird on a stick. So bird and flight shots are rarely as sharp as my bird on a stick shots. Feels like it's the autofocus struggling to keep up when the larger ones come in close. Any thoughts on the best way to handle?" Okay, so we'll make a couple assumptions that your shutter speed is fast enough for bird in flight, right? You got to be at least 1/2000th of a second. If it's a smaller bird, 1/4000th of a second, like a kingfisher or sparrow, the little backyard birds, you need 1/4000th of a second. The larger birds like raptors, eagles, osprey, herrings, these you can be at like 1/2000th of a second, but these are all minimums. Faster the better. The more light you get, the better, right? Uh, so that would be the basics of getting sharp images. So assuming you have your shutter speed and ISO and everything in check, where you need it to be to get sharp images, then the next thing is the autofocus. Now the autofocus, there's a couple of settings in there, right? There's sensitivity and then there's speed. I'm going to assume you have an OM1 or OM3. I set my settings so long ago, I don't remember what they're called exactly. And then I saved it to a custom dial, so I don't have to think about it anymore. But in the autofocus menu, there's CAF sensitivity. I thought there was one more. Well, anyway, this is the setting you want, the CAF sensitivity. So if the bird is coming towards you, generally you want that to be on high, +2. And you can pretty much leave it at +2 for just about all kinds of bird and flight stuff because birds are always moving back and forth. The reason you would set it lower is for usually panning type shots where the bird is staying on the same plane of focus. They're not like coming towards you or going away. They're on the same plane of focus. But then, you know, they go behind a tree and then come back out, right? Then you want the sensitivity to be like -2 for these kind of shots. Because what the sensitivity does, it tells the camera how sensitive are you to the focal plane. So if you want it to be very sensitive to the focal plane, then if you're at +2, when the bird goes behind the tree, the camera's going to refocus on the tree. And then when the bird comes out, it's going to refocus on the uh, bird again. If you have the sensitivity to -2, let's go to the other extreme. What's going to happen is the camera's going to stay on the same focal plane and stay focused on the bird. It's not going to refocus on the tree as it's going behind the tree. And then when it comes back out, it's still focused on the bird. So that's the only setting really that you can adjust to have any effect on the autofocusing performance of the camera. Um, the other things you can do is, and this is a suggestion from Lee Hoy and some other ambassadors that I've talked to, uh, Tom and Lisa, can't pronounce their last name, but they will tell you to use manual ISO, full manual shutter speed, aperture, and set the ISO manually. Uh, and even if you can use a smaller target area. So, like right now, I have small. In my video, I tell you to use all points. What? Oh, I don't know why it's not going more than middle right now. But I tell you to use all points. If you can use large or middle, like a smaller area with this bird subject detect and track more yourself, right? And I'm doing that more often myself, and I am seeing better performance in the autofocusing. But use a smaller area that the camera looks for the bird, right? So the idea ultimately is you're taking load off of the processor in the camera and giving it more room, more breathing room to focus on the bird. Because if you have the camera trying to calculate exposure, even if it's only the isometric, uh, if you have the camera trying to constantly try to measure the exposure, that's taking away processing power from the autofocusing system, right? It's sharing all of that. And if you can reduce the autofocusing area from all points, like I recommended in my video, and I still recommend that for people just getting started, but as you get more advanced, you can use a smaller area. Like if your skill set gets improved where you can track better, right, manually, then you can use a smaller focusing target area. Um, so sensitivity setting, manual ISO, full manual shooting, and uh, smaller target area. Those are the 3 tips I can give you to try if you haven't tried those already. Beyond that, um, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Sometimes in low light, uh, if the light is very not contrasty, right? And it's a little bit low light, I would try using night vision or simulated optical viewfinder mode. For whatever reason, the autofocus system is tied to what you actually see through the EVF and on the back of this camera. And I've noticed that when I put the camera into night vision mode or in simulated optical viewfinder, I do get better autofocusing. So um, that's the fourth and last thing I would try for your bird and flight photography. So those are the tips that I can think of without us going out side by side in the field and seeing exactly how you're, doing all your settings and your technique and all of that. That's the best I can do. All right. Where are we? Holy crap. Am I at 3 hours on a live stream? Wow. Uh, Hold on. I need to, I lost my, stopping down today to F5 seems to have helped CF plus 2 using the 300 F4 on the OM1 Mark II. Okay. I mean, the only reason F5 might help is that the lens might be just a hair sharper at F5 than it is at F4 wide open. So you get a tiny bit more contrast, but I can't imagine that would make much difference. And then yes, the 50 to 200 2.835 SWD is on my radar for sure. Okay. Yeah, 3 hours, man. I didn't realize it. Time flies when you're having fun, right? Adam says I went back and watched a full soccer game, went and got snacks, and just now came back. Holy smokes! So yeah, I need to get going, just for everyone's sake, not just mine. You know, it's not fair. So if you have the 440 to 152.8 and 2x teleconverter, is there any reason to pick up a 75 to 300? Uh, from a pragmatic standpoint, no. Uh, but yeah, I would say don't bother. Save your money for the 300 F4 at that point. I don't see any reason because the 4150s, it is bigger, heavier lens, but ultimately, uh, it's a much better lens than the 75 to 300. And buying the 75 to 300 is going to be a little frustrating when you're using a pro lens and trying to step back to a 75 to 300. The only reason I use the 75 to 300 is because it's small, compact, lightweight, and I have a 300 f4. So I can switch between the two because I always have either one as a choice. But if you're right in the middle with a 40 to 152.8, that's a little harder question. But I would say ultimately, yeah, I would rather than spend the $500 on a 75 to 300, use that towards a longer pro lens like the 300 f4. So Gray Vanzini says, I love manual ISO, makes things more fun. Yep. And David says, I can put the 75 to 300 in my vest pocket and can't do that with the 40. Yes. I mean, ultimately the 75 300 is really compact for what it can do. But I would question a choice or decision to buy it if you already have the 40 to 150. I would save up to get, yeah, I would save up for a 300. And David says, I took the 75 300 and 12 to 200 to Alaska cruise last May. Yeah, nice combination. A lot of overlap though, but yes, you are 3 hours and I'm afraid I have to go. I know, right? 3 hour tour. All right. Uh, let's call it. Thanks everyone for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Um, as always, if you want to support the live streams and my channel, I have all my links down below for buying stuff on Amazon and B&H, or you can become a member, or you can just participate in the stream. That's that's just as valuable to me as anything else. So you guys have a great rest of your week. I will see you guys again on Tuesday. We're gonna have a marathon shopping stream. No, not really, but we'll have a shopping stream on Tuesday and a photo editing stream again on Friday, and then I'll be back Sunday again for this. You guys, yeah, I am pretty tired. So thanks again for joining me. Hope to see you guys again soon. Eat healthy and exercise, okay?